There's no limit to the ridiculous sorts of things that people will spend money on. On personal level, this will probably not be worse. However, when it comes to private and federal organizations, where taxpayer money is involved, there are a lot of failed or subpar projects out there. We collected 10 of the most bizarre, fruitless, and pointless ventures that we could find. Number 10. Beer Koozie Research. You may be familiar with the iconic beer koozie, an insulated fabric holder for our cold beverages on a hot summer day. But what you might not be as familiar with is the science behind its thermodynamic properties, or the amount of money that the US government pumped into a $1.3 million research grant out of the University of Washington. The study effects of beer koozie, and to learn more about condensation. According to Dale Duran, a UNOB professor of atmospheric sciences, a condensation layer only 4,000 of an inch wide could increase the contents of a can by 9 degrees Fahrenheit. While this might advance our understanding of global warming, it's hard to imagine how such a project cost more than $1 million. Maybe it were using imported beer. Number 9. Montreal's concrete tree stumps. Generally speaking, Canadians are a thrifty bunch. But try telling that to Montreal, who recently spent a whopping $3.45 million on trying to bring a little culture and art to their city in preparation for its 375th birthday. That involved installing numerous granite pedestals throughout the community as part of a bigger contract called Escales Découvertes or Discovery Stops. The problem was that they look a lot like concrete tree stumps. The project, already 43% over budget, has not surprisingly drawn a lot of fire from citizens and city councilors alike. Maybe they just don't understand art. Number 8. Teaching mountain lions to ride treadmills. You read that right. The National Science Foundation has been involved in a lot of projects, and while the majority of them generally pan out, there are a few that have caused politicians to scratch their heads when they look back over the receipts. One of these was $865,000, which was used in a 2014 study of the effect of long-term and sustained metabolic race of wildcats by putting mountain lions on a treadmill. The research hoped to learn about the expenditure of predators as a way to determine future conservation efforts and how to configure protected spaces for them. 8 months later, and it's hard to say whether or not such a study needed nearly $1 million. But this isn't the first time the NSF has been criticized for weird projects that included synchronized swimming sea monkeys and another that studied if boys like trucks and girls like dolls. Number 7. Goats in Afghanistan. Some ideas, even if they're great in theory, don't pan out, and then there are ideas that are so ridiculous from the beginning, you can't believe they didn't fail sooner. That was the case with the Task Force for Business Stability Operations, a division of the U.S. Department of Defense that tried a whole range of different methods to restart Afghanistan's economy. One of these involved airlifting 9 rare Italian goats to the war-torn country in an attempt to boost the cashmere industry. $6 million later, with no oversight, and the DoD still has no idea how many jobs their boss goat plant created, how much cashmere was produced, or even the fate of the goats themselves. For all intents and purposes, they might have ended up on someone's dinner plate. Number 6. Why lesbians are violent and fat. While the National Institute for Health, also known as NIH, was a bit more politically correct, this was the gist of several research studies, which looked at both the obesity levels among homosexual women and instances of alcohol-related abuse in homosexual relationships. Most of the research indicated higher than average levels of obesity among those tested, but that's a trend that pretty much defines most of the United States. So funneling nearly $670,000 into research, hoping to find some sort of correlation between homosexuality and obesity, seems like a bit of a reach. The other study, which looked at incidences of IPV or intimate partner violence, has considerably more credibility and definitely looks at an issue that is probably understated in society. But again, it's hard to imagine a study like this benching a price tag of $450,000. Number 5. Researching fat people. Speaking of obesity, the NIH didn't stop at lesbians. There are a number of funded studies and projects that at least attempt to take the obesity crisis seriously, but probably could have used another brainstorming session. One of these involves a planned obesity website designed to help pediatricians and parents better cope and deal with their children's conditions. Great in theory, if you don't recall the last time a federally funded healthcare website got implemented, or that the planned site cost $14,000. Another genius plan attempting to cater to the younger demographic involves spending $583,000 incorporating diabetes-related themes into video games as a way to encourage healthy eating habits. Many of the games did seem to strike a chord by helping kids modify their diets. If adding a single serving of fruit and vegetables to your daily intake counts. But very few showed any ability to influence physical activity, which sort of goes hand in hand with weight management. No word yet on whether there will be a multiplayer mode. Number 4. Chimp Poop. Oh, NIH. What will you think of next? The same organization also funded a study on primates at a staggering cost of $590,000 to determine that the chimps who were the best at throwing their own excrement were also the best communicators in social hierarchies. According to Bill Hawkins of Emory University, who headed the project, the actual act of throwing something is unique to humans and chimps, and might point to the cognitive evolution that gave birth to early humans. The study indicated that those chimps who were the best at flinging diarrhea had more developed neural activity in the Broca's area of the brain, a region that plays an important role in speech. The moral of the story: I guess it's okay to chuck your poop, as long as you're able to eloquently express yourself while doing it. Number 3. GSA Conference in Vegas. You hope the organization responsible for overseeing and eliminating governmental waste. The General Services Administration would take its own philosophy to heart. But in 2010, they were called to task for spending upwards of $800,000 on a conference in Las Vegas. In the scandal that followed, the chief of the GSA and 2 of her executives resigned. A breakdown of the expense include $5,600 for room parties, $3,200 for a mind reader session, $31,000 for a networking reception that included $7,000 worth of sushi, and the $75,000 team building exercise where participants constructed a bicycle. They also spent over $6,000 on commemorative coins. You have to think that somewhere along the line, someone must have thought to themselves, isn't what we're doing a little ironic? Number 2. Teaching abstinence in Africa. There have been a lot of social, political, and economical problems in Africa, and the HIV epidemic is by far one of the most profound in terms of how many people it's affected. In all their wisdom, the U.S. between 2004 and 2013 sought to stem the spread of HIV through an education program that emphasized abstinence. 9 years and $1 billion later, a comparison of national data from the 14 countries that received money from PPFAR or the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS relief versus those that hadn't benefited from the program show no change in the initial age of first sexual encounters, or the number of sexual partners, or teenage pregnancies, both of which are behaviors which are associated with the spread of the virus. This came as little surprise to many researchers who had seen how abstinence-focused programs in the U.S. had similarly failed. Kids will be kids. Arming them with knowledge may be the best defense. Telling them what not to do, not so much. Number 1. Healthcare failure. The infamous tobacco that was healthcare.gov was designed to give everyone a free and easy access to healthcare resources, both in terms of figuring out their insurance, planning their own medical bills, and basically keeping up to date with hospitals, emergencies, and medical systems all across the U.S. What it accomplished was nationwide scorn and humiliation, after crashing only hours after being brought online. So how did the U.S. decide to fix this little snafu by doling out $4 million in taxpayer money to the same contractor, CGI Federal, responsible for creating it in the first place to fix the software issues? But that small fish, in comparison to the nearly $56 million they charged taxpayers in the 5 months following the bungled launch. Auditors did withhold $267,420, but only because they couldn't verify what expenses had actually been used on fixing the software. But again, that small fish in the grand scheme of things. Considering the company's entire collective contracts for healthcare.gov add up to a whopping $250 million, that's a hefty price tag for some subpar programming. So while you may have a hard time rationalizing that impulse buy at the supermarket, rest assured there are plenty of other people out there who have made even stupider purchases, in the range of hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. Which one did you think was the worst project? And can you think of any other super pointless or bizarre ones? Let me know in the comment section down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Also hit that bell icon to be part of the notification squad. Thanks for watching.